What's going on, everybody? Bring your friends here with my good friend Zeromi Pepperoni. Say something, Zeromi Pepperoni.
What's going on, guys?
And we're here to talk about Mirage, the pros, the cons, and what we think should change with it. So, off the top of your head, Zeromis, do you think it's better than Chrono, or no?
First impression is it's not better than Chrono. Like at its prime, like when Chrono first came out, it was ridiculous, and it ended up getting toned down later. But this one actually feels underwhelming to begin with. So, and I'm not saying that it should be better than Chrono, because you want there to be some variety, but it just feels a little underwhelming right now.
Oh, underwhelming might be an understatement. Pretty much every single trade is underwhelming. You're just like
give me shield, and maybe we can talk.
That's that's actually something I wanted to talk about as well, because do you think that, and I personally don't think this should be the case, do you think that you should have to spec into Chrono or Mirage in order to get the weapon? I don't think you should. You know how cool it would be to be able to spec like into Chrono and get axe as well as shield? Like, you know how crazy it would be? Like,
that'd be really cool.
Personally,
I feel like everyone would just take shield, no matter what build they play. I feel like everyone would just take shield.
Yeah, they would definitely have to
tone all the weapons down, make them all equal,
or even tone them up. Like nobody uses offhand sword. Pistol isn't really much without duelists. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be. I mean, shield is just very strong, just because of like echo of memory and the stun. Being able to stun so many people at once is more than good in terms of crowd control. Like, what, Sword 4, you have the ability to daze one fucking guy. It's like, okay, this is great, you know? So I don't know, it's just like, I feel that the skill trees themselves should be there to buff like a specific weapon in particular. Like dueling, for example, has Fencer's Finesse, and which is just based on sword, right? When it comes to like illusions, for example, you have the Pledge, which is for torch. When you have inspiration, you have Warden's Feedback, which is for focus. So they need to essentially, with each tree, go towards a certain theme of weapon and make the skill that buffs said weapon so good that it would be a fine line between taking the tree and not taking it, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, that'd be cool. That'd actually be really interesting.
But I don't think they would do it. It's almost like, what's the point of doing this video? We have so many great ideas, but it doesn't matter. They won't do it. But
I'd even go as far as to say, like, in Chrono, if they made a trait for shield, like that would be the trait that gives it a second block, and like make shield baseline only block once. And
but
then,
what
you trait for it, maybe
where
block
would you
twice or something.
Where would you spec that for in shield? Like,
they'd have to remove
I'm looking right now, actually. Interrupting a foe slows them, time catches up, activating a shatter gives your illusion super speed. All's well ends well, probably can, I don't know, or maybe just make it part of the passive tree. Like, you could make it part of Time Splitter and Continuum Split, just your shield gives you a second block or something like that. But I don't know, I mean, it would have to be something like really, really good. Or you could make it to where the stun on shield 5 doesn't return to you. It's only just you send the shield wave out and then only stuns 5 people, as opposed to stunning a maximum of 10 in SPVP if all 5 people were in mid or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? So
yeah,
you could do something like that. Just nerf the stun on shield 5, or you can just give it an addition, or you can nerf the block on shield 4. So, but in terms of Mirage, there's so many traits that need to be worked out. Like, what was the trait called that gave you a clone on? Actually, I'm just gonna look at this up in the wiki real quick. Gw2 wiki. I think it was the ambush skill that gives you a clone. You know what I'm talking about, though? Because I changed it in my suggestion, but I don't know which one.
Are you talking about in the oh yeah, it was whenever you use a deception skill with 2 clones, spawns a clone?
Yeah,
that one?
Self-deception. Like, that is the biggest hunk of shit I've ever seen. Like, you have to compare it with the rest of the like deceptive evasion and stuff like that. Like even it's not even like because the change I had for it was generate a clone when you successfully hit an enemy with an ambush ability. Like that still isn't as good as deceptive, right? Because not only do you have to give up an evade, which that's all you have to do with deceptive evasion, you just have to dodge, that's it. There's no other prerequisite. With the my proposed change is you have to use your ambush ability, use a dodge, and hit them with said ambush ability. And then you get the clone. Like, I don't think that's, you know, too much to ask for, do you? Or what would you do in terms of changing that ability?
So I feel like the one where you have to use the deception skill to get a clone, it's pretty much only useful with Jaunt. And I mean,
but you'd have to have two clones active, though. That's still still steep.
You have to just like always only use it when you have two clones up, and it's like when you put it that way, I feel like it's like okay, but it could just be a better trait.
I still don't think it goes adds up to good gameplay either, because you would essentially be not using your deception skills based off the situation at hand. You would be using them only when you would have two or more illusions on the field, right? Because I don't know, I just don't think that's good design in order like having a prerequisite like that. Like, oh, now it's a good time to use your deception skill because you have let's blow everything to get clones. You know, it's just like I don't know. I just think it needs to be completely reworked.
I don't particularly like the skill, but I understand that it gives you like an option for creating clones, but I still think it should be different.
And that's another thing when it comes to Mirage 2 is that I don't think there is one thing on there that currently buffs your deception skills, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, like other than gaining access to it. And self-deception. Yeah, that's it. It's just that's
Chrono
the only.
Didn't have one either. Chrono never had like a well reduction. I don't think trait. No, I don't think it did.
Yeah, but all is well that ends well. It actually gave you alacrity upon using wells, though.
True.
Which let's see, what else does Chrono give you off the top of my head? I mean, shills.
I mean, we could just, get Mirage Cloak every time we use the deception.
It really has been a long time since I've played Illusionary Reversion. Now you have to have 3 clones in order to...
Yeah, that's...
Didn't it used to be 2?
Yeah,
and then they nerfed it again?
Then 2, then
wow,
3.
What a fucking joke. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it's mostly the problem with just, like, the fact that if you have 3 clones that are running to your target, they still count as active clones. So you just, like, create clones...
On top of clones, yeah, it's just like a little army.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at least all is well that ends well would, because that's pretty much a no-brainer in the first tree. I mean, super speed, who cares? Slow and interruption, who cares? You might as well just stack as much alacrity as you can, because they already nerfed it, I remember, so. But yeah, I mean, Mirage doesn't really have anything going towards that, so it's just like, you need something. It's like, what else is on the list? We got... Reformed Mirage Mirror. Oh boy, that's a great one. Let's read it. Let's see. Or it's called Shards. Actually, yeah. Shards of Glass. That's what it's called. Shattered illusions have a chance to becoming Mirage Mirrors, and then the trigger chance is 33%. This is probably the worst trait out of the entire thing, because it's just like. It's on a 20-second cooldown, if I'm not mistaken, and you have a 33 on top of a 33% chance of spawning 1 mirror. Who would spec into this? So basically, I remade the skill called Reformed Mirage Mirror. When you shatter with 2 or more illusions, spawn a Mirage Mirror your location, and that's also been what people have been freaking out about as well, as in terms of the question of where do the Mirage Mirrors spawn at, like especially when it comes to False Oasis, because that's just a joke ability as of right now, because nobody wants to backtrack in order to. It's like, hey, I'm at point A. I'm gonna hit fucking Mirage, our false oasis, and run forward 20 feet. Oh, I healed. Oh, look, there's a mirror that I gotta backtrack a football field to get to get evasion for 1 second. Oh, I'm dead trying to get to my evasion.
I found myself using Jaunt to like pick up my mirrors all the time, and like on power at least. So
yeah, and that's one of the great things about Jaunt too, is because if you were stunned, you can still use Jaunt just to literally teleport on top of a mirror if you wanted to do so, which is really cool because, like, say if you pick up Elusive Mind, and say if you, like, say for example that the Reformed Mirage Mirror, like if they changed it to what I propose, like if you shatter with 2 or more, you spawn a Mirage Mirror, like just like right in front of you. But say if you get stunned, you could essentially jaunt on top of the mirror and unstun yourself and clear a Condi at the same time. Like, it's just, it's such a fucking cool idea, and it's such a great ability too to go with Mirage. Because that would be like one of the questions too. It's like, how would you unstun yourself by running over a mirror when you're stunned? And Mirage is just the perfect answer to that. So let's see, what else? Do you think the what is it? The one that grants you regen on Mirage. Do you think that should be changed in any way? The gain regeneration Mirage Cloak is active. I think it's kind of too small of a duration, possibly. Maybe. I don't know.
I can't even look at the tray right now. It's like 4 seconds or something of regen.
It's yeah, you're right. 4 seconds. Yeah, and then the duration of damaging conditions is reduced while you are regenning, which is bleeding, burning, confusion, and torment.
Which, that's not bad. I mean, that's okay. Like I find myself taking that on power, but that's mostly just because the alternatives were like meh.
Yeah.
So
the thing is like when you compare it like with illusion, or not illusion, but inspiration, you essentially get that shit passively. So it's almost like, is it worth speccing in, like, things that you would have to spec into with Mirage? You can essentially get passive with is it inspiration, or am I tripping, or is it something else? Oh no, it's chaos tree. Yeah, with metaphysical rejuvenation and illusionary membrane. But you can make an argument there that those are both 15-second cooldown traits. As with on Mirage, there is no cooldown. It's just you get 4 seconds of regen every time you dodge. So I guess you could make an argument there that it would be worth speccing into just based off the how much regen you get, because it doesn't have a CD.
Right, and I mean also the fact that if you're going for like a power spec, you know, you're not gonna like spec into chaos just because like you want regen. It's like kind of just like you're in Mirage, you're like, all right, I kind of want the extra sustain, or I'm having trouble with Condis, I might just pick this up.
And I kind of feel like with Speed of Sand that it was kind of forced there, just so you would be able to cover the same distance in terms of like when you dodge roll, yeah, when you go from point A to point B. So it almost feels like there by necessity. I almost feel like that I wish it was like combined into another trait, like almost with Mirage Cloak or something like that, and then Speed of Sand would be something else entirely in terms of. And also another thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to Mirage, do you think that the whole, I'm not sure if I want to call it a gimmick, but you know how when the developers were talking about, oh well, if you spec Mirage, nobody would essentially be able to tell where you're at. Let's cut the bullshit. Like, pretty much everybody will be able to tell where you're at for the most part. Like, it doesn't take that long to decipher which one's the real player and the clone. Like, the only way that you essentially get around that briefly is what, Acts 3, when you randomly teleport to the enemy. Like, you don't know like where in the circle they're going to be when you teleport to them. So that's, I guess, kind of confusing. And did you try any of the deception skills on the weekend?
Yeah, I messed around with Shards of Glass for fun, or whatever the one, or Sand Through Glass. I messed around with the port that like shadow steps you to, or like ports you to your target, like 1200 range. I think it was like illusionary ambush or something. I forget. or advance or ambush, one of those, and it would just port me to like a random spot next to my target, and my mirror blade would just
Illusionary ambush didn't even work for me half the time. Like I would test it out on the dummy, and like I would port like fucking 10 miles away from the dummy.
Yeah,
like it wasn't nowhere close. It was
just nowhere useful.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. Like the dude would be like, "Oh no, he's 10 feet behind me." You know, it wasn't even on top of him. So I really don't get that. Mirage Advance I thought was really cool, just because it gave you a Shadow Step ability and
like
restored endurance. Yeah. So, and Crystal Sands, or actually, was that the one that was just? Yeah, that was the one that just granted confusion on an enemy. That one I found the least useful.
So about what you're saying about like how I feel about not being able to like target mesmer when they're playing Mirage, yeah, like you said, I think it's pretty much that's only the case when you're playing Axe. And what I noticed is like, so Hans and I were messing around with it, and he was saying that you can cancel cast the Axe 3 so that you don't have to actually port, but they still drop target and all your clones jump to that target. That's like, that can make it a little confusing. Like you can play around with that and that's fine, but that aspect is only for Axe. And if you are to port to your target, there's so much like cleave in the game. Like you're fighting like a hollow smith or something, and they just literally erase you and all your clones around them. Like it's like, it's an okay idea, but it only works with Axe. That's the only one, unless you're taking stealth, but yeah, Axe is the only skill that actually has like a detarget skill or like mechanic to it.
Right. And I kind of feel like, what do you think about the ambush skills? Like I feel like Sword 1 is, I feel like Sword 1 is the only one worth taking, to be quite honest. Like I feel Sword 1 with the fact that you don't have to target anybody in order to leap everywhere. I think that changes up Sword completely, because when I was first making my build, I wanted to run sword, pistol, and then staff, just because pistol has magic bullet, which stuns people. So you would have the stun, you'd have the damage, and then just running staff for the mobility and the condies or whatever, because I was trying to make a condi build. But when you have, if you say like with my build, I spec'd into confounding, and now the ambush skill is a stun. So essentially, I don't even need to use pistol anymore. I ran focus, and now you just hit prestige, evade, ambush towards somebody, and you stun them from stealth. And it's essentially just guaranteed burst. So, I don't know, I feel it's just like none of the ambush abilities of everything else come close, because Sword gives you so much utility for whatever you're doing. It can be used in combat, out of combat, for mobility. It can be used for stunning people if you spec into it with confounding, and it just does, it's a good gap closer too. So you have 2 gap closers with Sword, which is crazy. And what do you have with Scepter? You're just like a sitting turret. You just sit there and spam a bunch of condies with nothing else. With Great Sword, you just have this useless mega beam, and then with Staff, you have this ball of condies that take way too long to cast, that's easily dodgeable. So I don't know, I don't think anything compares to Sword at the moment. They really need to essentially buff everything else.
Yeah, so just to do a quick run through, I feel like Sword has the strongest one by far, in my opinion. The only thing I would say that Sword needs to fix is like, sometimes when you're doing, like, you're fighting someone and you're going for an ambush, like the terrain just fucks it up and you just miss, and it sucks.
I agree.
That can be fixed, but otherwise Sword is ridiculous. The difference between the Sword ambush skills and the other ones is just like
night and
insane.
Day. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the Great Sword one, like trash, absolute trash. The Scepter one, I feel like the Scepter one is actually the only one that works really well right now with like taking the Infinite Horizon. Like that actually makes your clones like
do shit tons of condi damage, like,
which is fine. Like I think that's good. I just think you should probably be able to move while you're doing it, just so you're not like, a sitting duck. And then there's, let's see, what other weapon? Axe. The Axe one. That one's weird.
It's too much of a. I think it's too much of a tell on Axe, because they just hover there for way too long before, because they almost like fly, just hover in place and kind of spin, and then just like go straight at your opponent. But it's still way too much of a cast time before you know, they actually hit somebody.
It's pretty long. Yeah, I noticed that it was just really annoying to land those on someone who actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But so the axe one is like meh. It's like okay, I guess it's meh. And then the staff one, I feel like the staff one could be strong if it was like a quicker cast time and its velocity wasn't absolute trash. Like if you're taking the like people can just strafe it. Like you could strafe it by accident. Like you don't even. It's like so hard to hit. I mean, it is a strong. Like if you land it, it hurts and all. But I feel like the cast time should be reduced by a bit, and the velocity needs to be like increased, so it's harder to strafe or harder. You actually need to blow a dodge to dodge it.
With the great sword, shoot a beam at a foe, a secondary beam at foes near your target. So it's they really need to just completely rework split surge. But I don't know off the top of my head what I would change about it. Like what the fuck would you change about split surge to actually make it like it's either A, you give some type of like boon gain or something like each time you would hit somebody, like, but even like if you were to give like a stack of might every time, it would still be like so much might per ambush for something like that. That would be insane. Or you could just make it like a melee ability, and that would be pretty crazy too.
Yeah, I would say like a melee ability would be dope because like you could just have it something as simple as like doing like a dash forward and slashing or something like that. It's like a mobility skill. You can use it for mobility. It's like get away from someone, or you can use it to like do something in close range because it is a great sword. Like, you know, I'd like to have some kind of melee in that weapon set. I mean, you could still like, you know, mirror blade up close and all that. Like I do that all the time and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a good opportunity to take advantage of the fact that the ambush skill on greatsword is just trash. Maybe we can just add something actually cool and useful. So.
Actually, what about you know how, I know this is like just completely off the top of my head, just spitting out dumb ideas, but like maybe if you use the ambush attack, like every hit that was successful towards your enemy would actually pull them towards you.
Oh god, that'd be gross. That'd be so strong. Holy crap.
That'd be pretty crazy though, right?
That'd be really strong.
Because you have an ability that pushes them away from you. What about ability that pulls them towards you?
That'd be really strong. I don't know about that one. Like, also, would it CC like every time, or would it just actually just straight up like without CCing them like pull you toward you? And also, it becomes like synergetic with like the greatsword autos, which like do more damage from far away. But
oh yeah, you're right.
I mean,
that's always been a topic for debate too, whether or not that mechanic should be reversed.
I always preferred it to be reversed because I feel like it's more rewarding to have to greatsword auto someone in melee range because it's more risky than it is to just auto someone from max range. But
that would actually be, if they were to reverse the damage on greatsword, that would actually be perfect because you would just pull someone towards you with your ambush and you just do fat damage with your auto. And then it would also line it up for greatsword 2 and 3, which would just be fat daddy damage, you know? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, either that or you would have like a small leap ability on sword or something like that, or it would like stack Vuln on the target or something like that. That would be kind of like nifty.
10 Vuln would be like, that'd be like pretty good at least. Like that's not bad. You just do 10% more damage to that target. It's like anything but the current one. Anything. Like, I mean, I'd love to see a melee skill. That'd be like my favorite thing ever. I think it'd be really.
Or another
really
cool
awesome.
thing would to be more specific, like say every time you or one of your clones hit somebody with a greatsword ambush, it would be 2 stacks of might per, maybe, or something like that. So that'd be 2, 4, 6, 8 total per one. I mean, I don't know if 8 per would be enough. Maybe. I mean, you could fucking do it more than once. So I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit that needs to be changed with greatsword. That was probably the most underwhelming.
Even like, okay, so say you're at like, you know, your max range or whatever, and you're autoing someone, but they shoot like something at you and you dodge it. It would like kind of suck if you like had to use the melee skill instead of, you know, just being able to continue to auto. So what you could do is just make it a melee skill that like shoots like a projectile at the end so that it's still like can be used. It's like more of like a variety. Like the slash would do like more damage, but the range attack that comes out would do something as well. I don't know.
Or it could be just like a straight buffer for the rest of your skills, like granting you like might or something, depending on how many clones you have out at the time. Possibly, I have no idea. But the way it is now, it's just, I feel like they're in the same spot we are now. It's just they don't know with the current mechanic of sword like something that would make it good. Because like how do you possibly add something into, because it doesn't have to be the same. Like that's why they were so successful with sword, because Mirage Thrust has nothing to do with the auto attack, because the auto attack is just fucking swinging your sword around, and then Mirage Thrust is a completely different mechanic. Yeah. And Split Surge is like the complete opposite. It's just like, it's just an upgraded beam. Like who cares? Like it needs to be something completely different.
Yeah.
So or you would like attach a chain to your sword and like fucking throw the sword at somebody, and like it would be like a self pull. Like that'd be sick.
That'd
like
be
you'd
insane.
pull you to them. God. Like you'd pull. It would essentially be the same thing as Mirage Thrust, except it's just a pull and not a CC. And then you would just be lining up fucking sword 2 and 3 while you just straight up scorpion your ass.
So strong.
Like come here.
Oh,
yeah. That'd be ultra dope. Have we talked about False Oasis yet? I think we have.
We like kind of
did.
Touched on it, yeah.
But
so let me just start. I personally feel like the healing power, or like the amount of heals for its cooldown is just not where it needs to be. Like you could just take Ether Feast and get so much more healing output. But if they were to change,
because False Oasis is on a 30-second cooldown and Ether's on 20, so. Also, another thing I also thought about is, what if Mirage actually granted you a upgraded version of Vigor? Because that's what essentially Mirage is all about, is the ability to dodge or to self-dodge and be able to cover cast your skills and stuff like that. So what if they actually upgraded your Vigor passively? I wonder if that would actually be too much or too little.
I feel like it might be too much, and the only reason I say that is just because Mirage has so much access to Vigor. Like I've never felt like I had so many dodges.
Yeah.
Since playing Mirage, and I personally, one of my favorite changes that could be made is the one where when you gain, when you pick up a mirror, you get the effect of elusive mind.
Yeah. That's great synergization or synergization. It's good synergy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'd be really cool with Jaunt. It'd be really cool with just like being able to get more cleanse on like a power spec. I mean, obviously I'm seeming a little biased here. Like I want to see more power specs like available, because it seems like they're only looking to buff Condi in every way, like every class almost. So. Yeah,
that's the great thing about Elusive Mind too, is because it doesn't really it's not Condi, or it's just pure utility. So. Even if you were speccing Mirage, if Reformed Mirage Mirror were to spawn with 2 or more illusions, if I was running power, I would run with that. Decepting Ambush, where you generate a clone when you successfully hit an enemy with Ambush, and Elusive Mind. So it would be top, middle, without a doubt. Because you'd have clone regeneration, you'd have plenty of Mirage Mirrors when you shatter, and you have the ability just to break out of stuns and Condi. Because that's also one question, is how the hell do you go into a mirror if you're in stun? And the answer to that is Jaunt. Like I really don't see any other well, I guess you could use Phase Retreat if you line it up perfectly, but just other abilities that just straight up pour you and not break stun would just be the perfect answer to that. So that would be a great way to go if you're going power.
It'd be a good buff to the heal too. Like it makes the heal more worth taking if that was the case, I guess. And like all the other skills that give you Mirage Mirrors, like I feel like I would always take the time to pick them up, but like the reason I pick them up is literally just to get access to the ambush skills. So like I'd a sword, I'd be like sticking on someone, and then I'd see my mirror in the side, I'd jaunt to it.
But it's so counterproductive though, because you're having to backtrack.
much.
Yeah.
It takes so much just to pick it up.
But yeah, one of my ideas for that was I actually like the second idea where essentially false oasis, once the mirror appears, you would get a shadow step ability back to the mirror. And then you'd be able
that would make it a tier 1 heal.
Yeah,
easily.
that would make it super good. Like super good. Like I don't think anybody would complain with the 30-second cooldown if it gave you a port to a mirror on top of it. Because not only would you and it would also work really great with Elusive Mind as well, because if you were to say get stunned, like as the mirror was up, you can essentially port back, clear a Condi, and remove the stun at the same time.
Yeah.
So it would just be like the ultimate juke. Like it'd just be perfect.
Yeah, even if you just made the shadow step like only for a short time, like make it like 3 seconds or like 2, like make it short. Like don't make it so that they can just like always just use their heal and you know be able to port back whenever.
Yeah, because right now I think the heal is like once, I believe it's like the mirror was up once you used False Oasis, like once your pulses were done, the mirror would then appear, right? And I'm pretty sure it stayed up for like 5 seconds. So you could just have it stay up for shorter, therefore, you know, because obviously you're buffing the skill, so you want to decrease the amount of time that the mirror and the port is actually available.
Yeah.
So essentially once the mirror breaks, then therefore you don't get the port anymore either. You're only able to port as long as the mirror is active. And then if not, then you miss your window of opportunity to go back. So I think that would be a good skill. Did we talk about Riddle of Sand? I don't think we have yet. Yeah, when entering combat, your first ambush attack applies confusion. I'm under the assumption that you have to, it only applies when you're first entering combat, so it doesn't like reset itself even when you shatter. I could be wrong. It could be bugged. It could be not. I only messed with it for a really short time, so I'm not 100% on this. You said that it does reset.
I feel like it does work. I feel like it does work, but the thing is, it's still a little underwhelming, and the reason for that is just because the other ambush skills are, you know, annoying to land, or their velocity is just trash, or whatever. Like if you're gonna land it on staff, like it's just so easy to dodge. I don't know. I don't. It's just. Maybe if they were to buff the ambush skills, that trait wouldn't be as bad. I feel like that trait is actually not that bad, but I mean, they'd have to.
Yeah, like before we talked about there was no trait in Mirage that essentially buffed your deception skill. So my idea was to essentially gut that skill completely, just erase it and redo it, and call it deception training, which would be your deception skills are reduced by 2 seconds every time you use Mirage Cloak, and the mirrors would also count for that as well. So it would essentially be like a specialized version of Alacrity only for deception skills, so your heal, your utilities, and jaunt. I think that would be, and it's in the perfect place too, because your deception training, it's like either you choose reduce cooldown of all your deception skills if you choose to choose them, or you're choosing between that and Decepting Ambush, which is generate a clone when you successfully hit an enemy with an ambush ability. So you're tilting on the scale either more clone production or reduce cooldown of all my skills, which Decepting Ambush would help, but you have to choose against it if you were to take reduced CD of all that. So
if that trait existed, it'd be really strong.
Yeah.
Like even if it was like 1.5 seconds, just
that
trait.
Even if it would be 1 second, I think it would be worth, just because the amount of, like, if everything were to happen the way I have this Imgur link pulled up right now, even if it would be 1 second, it would be amazing, because you have the shatter 2 or more illusions, you grant a mirror. If you have, and then yeah, it's just so much potential, especially with your dodges as well. You would just be reducing your cooldown almost perma. I mean, not almost perma, but it would be close to it, which would what Deception really needs, I think. Or it needs something. It needs something that you can trade into that would either A, reduce the cooldown, or B, grant some ability that would benefit the skill. Just like what is it with Dom? Blurred Inscriptions. Like if you were to spec into signets, for example, you would grant distortion and Connie removal. Like, there's nothing for deception, like, period, right now. So there needs to be something like a specialized version of an add-on that you can add to your deception skills, which they don't have.
Yeah, I mean,
and that would be the
really
perfect thing for it. Yeah. Let's see.
Just to conclude on that, I feel like right now it's not worth picking up. Like, it's not as worth as it should be to have to picking up mirrors. So to fix that, you just make it so that Elusive Mind, works on
mirrors.
Works on when you pick up mirrors, and also being able to pick up mirrors would give you Mirage Cloak, which would reduce the cooldown of your deception skills. Like, it'd make it more worth to like go out of your way to pick them up if you know you're reducing your cooldown. It'd make the gameplay quicker, which I think it needs in order to compete with Chrono because it doesn't have alacrity.
Yeah. So you would essentially give it its own form of it, but only towards Mirage or deception skills or whatnot, or what have you. So, and not to mention the fact that if it were to go that route, Elusive Mind and Shards of Glass or Reformed Mirage Mirror, or whatever you want to call it, would be so synergetic it would be disgusting. Like, it would be so good. Like, there'd be no reason not to pick those two together.
Yeah, and also, just from like talking to a bunch of mesmers and stuff, there's been like, I feel like people have decided to drop inspiration and take illusions on when they're playing Condi.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that was my workaround around it too, because essentially if you were to choose Mirage, like, my first thought was going into inspiration for the Condi clear just because there was so much of it, but you just weren't doing enough damage. So my only workaround for that was picking up signets with blurred inscriptions for the Condi clear on that. So not to mention you would have Condi clear on Torch, you'd have Condi clear on signets, and you'd have Condi clear on evade and taunt. So it would just, it's a perfect workaround. So you can essentially go Mirage, Dom, and illusions and still have the Connie pressure without going into inspiration. But sorry, I cut you off, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that. So I feel like a lot of mesmers, like talking to SubQT and stuff, I feel we've spoken about it, and we were talking about maybe dropping inspiration and just going like illusions dueling Mirage.
Yeah.
And that way you'd have cleanse from Elusive Mind, which you'd have to take in this case because you don't have any other cleanse.
Yeah.
And also taking Jaunt for more cleanse. And in this case, if you were to give the mirrors the ability to work with Elusive Mind, it would help Mesmer in the sense that it would have more cleanse than it enough to compete with like inspiration probably.
Right.
I feel like it probably doesn't need. I don't think it needs inspiration, but
no, I don't think so either. As long as there's some type of viable option in other trees like blurred inscriptions to clear Condis for you, then I don't think that you should be forced to go into inspiration. Yeah. I think it's a very safe route, but you just don't get the damage return.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't. And when it comes to if you were to go into dueling, like the only damaging you would have to go into like an interrupt build, I feel. Well, actually, would you choose Deceptive Evasion? Like, say if the changes like happened in Mirage, right? Where we're talking about you grant a clone on ambush, would you choose Deceptive Evasion? I kind of feel like that would be overkill. So I wonder if if you would just go into Ineptitude, or you could go probably Ineptitude, I guess, and Blinding Dissipation. I mean, I guess if you were to run Condis as well, it depends on what type of build you're wanting to run, I suppose. Were you running Power or Condi? Or what were you talking about?
I was talking just more Condi, but something just came to me where, so another problem I've been talking to people about is the fact that taking Infinite Horizon is just like kind of anti-synergetic with the current, like taking Deceptive Evasion. When you dodge, you create a clone, but dodging is also the way you activate your clones to do their
it's almost like a one and done type thing, which I don't really agree with at all, because it's just like you have things on the build or in Mirage that grant you certain things when you shatter, but yet Infinite Horizon by design is something that you would essentially want all of your clones to be out on the field in order to min-max it completely. Not to mention the fact that it doesn't work with phantasms, even though it says apply to your illusions, and illusions is clones and phantasms. Like, they both fall under that category. So either A, they wrote it wrong and it applies only to clones and it's just a typo, or B, they meant it that way and the phantasms are bugged and they're supposed to do the attack as well. Like, I don't know which one. I'm assuming it's clones only. Like, that's the way I feel.
That's
they
the way
probably
I thought it was too, yeah.
So they probably just need to reword it. But that being said, you're right. It's very base. You don't gain anything from shattering these things. So it's just kind of unsynergetic with the rest.
I think I see the big picture that I want to put. So pretty much, you want more damage, but you also want Conti Cleanse. So you take illusions, duelist or dueling and Mirage to get enough Conti Cleanse. But you have to take the Conti Cleanse on dodge in order to, like, you know, have enough cleanse. But that's kind of stupid because Infinite Horizon is made mostly for Conti specs. So if you were to buff the ambush skills so that they're actually useful, you could technically go into inspiration if you had enough damage through ambush skills. But at the moment, there is really, like, no choice. Like, you don't have enough damage to take Infinite Horizon. It's just too... It doesn't do enough damage, and it doesn't land enough, and you don't have cleanse, so you need to run Elusive Mind. Like, it just becomes a thing where you just don't even want to take Infinite Horizon because it's just not worth. Like, you'd rather have that damage that you can rely on, like in Illusions. Illusions has, like, really good output, not just because it puts Torment, but also because, you know, you're putting extra fusion stacks, and it's when you want it, not just that it puts out more pressure.
So how would you fix Infinite Horizon to where it would actually work with a shatter spec? That's the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think one of the ways, I'm not sure if this is how it works currently, but with Infinite Horizon, if you were to pick up a mirror, would it give it to all your clones too? I forget. I think it does, right?
I believe it does, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool if that incentivized more people to take more traits that activated or like.
So you would take Infinite Horizon with, like, Shards of Glass or whatever, or
like
Reform.
Shards of Glass, the heal, the one where you shatter, you, like, you know, create a mirror, or so, just like there'd be more incentive to want to use those because those are activators for your Infinite Horizon.
But yeah, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if Infinite Horizon and the mirror actually proc the ability, but I'm assuming it does. Just, you know,
if it
just having faith.
That. Like,
right, exactly. If it doesn't, then give it that, and it would just be more DPS when you dodge. So, but that being said, though, it kind of sucks for anybody just throwing out a Phantasm because it's kind of it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because you want to use your Phantasms because they're good damage, but if you spec into Infinite Horizon, you're essentially gimping yourself when you do use a Phantasm, right? Because it's not a clone.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Like, what do you do for that? Like, I think it needs to be compensated somehow because it says illusions, right? So if they were to go illusions, they would have to give something to your Phantasms as well. Like, give them anything. I mean, do you think that they should shoot the attack on top of their normal attack?
I feel like that. Oh, you mean that? Oh.
So like, so say like the duelist, right, shoots 8 times. So on top of the 8 times, just the first bullet would be whatever the like, you would have to give it, like, something specific, though, wouldn't you? Or no?
It'd have to be a new skill probably. But
yeah.
What I
actually,
see is that
no, because it would just mimic your main hand, right? So would you have the duelist fucking swoop in like a sword clone? Like, what would you do?
That'd be weird. That'd be weird.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I guess you would just give it a you would give Phantasms their own ability or something like that. Like, I don't know. Like, how would you?
Like a lesser version of their ability. But also, what I want to say is that it is true that when you are gaining Mirage Cloak, so do all your clones. So your Phantasms are gaining invuln, and I guess you could say that your Phantasms are like, they're like more, like they're still getting invuln, right? Like you're still like protecting your Phantasms, which are like your big damage dealers. but I still feel like it's maybe like making like a lesser skill would probably be more like
more effective,
make it more useful. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, so say with Duelist, it would just shoot like 3 more times, like out of the 8. With the, let's see.
Oh yeah, maybe they would like empower your next Phantasm's attack or something. That'd be pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, that would be actually work without actually. So you would just buff it.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, just anything to kind of make the trait work for everything would be a nice touch. We already covered Elusive Mind. What do you think about Dune Cloak? I kind of feel it's for a Grandmaster trait. I don't think it's worth it.
I definitely played around with Dune Cloak, and also it's bugged. And I'm pretty sure it says 2 bleeds and it puts 3, which I mean it's like a Geo on dodge, which is like that's not bad. Honestly, I was playing around with it and I was like, this actually isn't that bad. Like it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's just that what it's competing with is just ridiculous. So
right.
I mean, if they were to actually move it down to like
master
trait and make it 2 bleeds as it should be, maybe it'd be like. Maybe I'd take that, to be honest. That's actually like not. That's a.
But if you were to replace it with Mirrored Axes, the Protection, or Shards of Glass, which one would you swap?
Oh yeah, that's.
Because
honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
I kind of feel like regardless of where you put this, it would be a terrible move because you wouldn't swap it with Protection because who would fucking just have like Mirage Mantle would never compete with Elusive Mind or Infinite Horizon. Mirrored Axes would never compete with Infinite Horizon or Elusive Mind. The only thing that would compete with it would be Shards of Glass. Shards of Glass would be the only one that would be able to compete with those 2 Grandmaster traits if it were to be changed to the way we just discussed earlier, which would be spawn a mirror when you shatter with 2 or more illusions.
And even then, I don't think it's as strong as the top 2. I'd say maybe just buff Dune Cloak in some way that isn't ridiculous, but like, so currently it puts 3 bleeds whenever you dodge.
Yeah.
And if you were to just get something else, like I really haven't brainstormed this one.
Dune Cloak. Dune Cloak. Gain Mirage Cloak conditions applied to bleeding foes have increased duration. I would say that would be way too much, but basically I would say that your clones also do it when you evade. That would be insane. That would be insane. But you'd have to nerf it, so it would essentially be
like 2 bleeds or something.
2 or 1 or something nuts. But like even your Phantasms too, so every single illusion you have applied bleeding to nearby foes. Like it would just be AoE preparation H all over the place. Like just people would just be bleeding out the ass.
Yeah.
Like that would be, I don't know. Like I still feel like you'd be able to make some cancerous shit, but like Infinite Horizon and Dune Cloak are almost too similar. That's the problem.
They both do the same thing.
They both apply Connies, but just I guess in different ways though. They're completely different. One is just you dodging. It's very simplistic. You dodge, you apply bleed, you have conditions applied to bleeding flows have increased duration. So it's a pretty nice. The increased duration is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And the bleed is a nice cover condi to everything else you want to do. So, but Elusive Mind is just too fucking good though. Like,
it's too good.
And that's the thing about Elusive Mind too, is just it's so good that if you spec Elusive Mind, you can essentially trait like no Stunbreaker at all, which opens up so many fucking possibilities of what you could run for utility. That's what I love about it, because it's such a reliable trait that you can essentially take other utilities. That's what I find really, really cool about it. So, yeah.
For sure.
I think we covered everything. Well, Nomad's Endurance, Shatter Skills give Vigor, which grants condition damage. That's pretty... I would kind of keep that the way it is. Yeah. And then we talked about Speed of Sand, gain super speed when you gain Mirage Cloak, which is pretty self-explanatory, and then the Mirage Cloak as well. And that's essentially the last thing, is just the fact of, and I know we covered this earlier, of being able to pick whatever weapon you want. I still think that should be a thing. I'm still a big fan of you spec into the trees to based off your build and to increase the weapons that you currently have equipped. Like Chronomancer is shield, dueling is sword, illusions is torch, inspiration is focus, dom is greatsword, you know. But that's the great thing about everything on the regular tree. It doesn't obviously, you know, require you to spec into those weapons, obviously, because they're not elite specializations, quote unquote, give me your money. But I still feel it should be that way even with elite specializations.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it'd be broken? Like, what if you had the ability to do that? What would you choose? Just axe shield? Shield anything? I mean, shield's really strong, sure, but it just has, like, they need to either A, nerf shield, or B, buff everything that isn't shield, which would be just pistol, offhand sword.
I'd take sword shield, but like the way I think they'd be able to like tone it down is just so that if you spec into chrono, you get like all these enhanced abilities on your shield. Like instead of only being able to block once, you get the second block ability.
Right.
Instead of, you know, your shield, you know, going forward and then coming back, it only goes forward or something like that. Like
right.
Just making it like a shittier version of itself until you actually like
spec into the tree.
chrono.
Yeah, I agree exactly. Like that's exactly what needs to happen. Like that would open up so much fucking build diversity in this game. Like it wouldn't even be funny.
Yeah.
It would be really so fun. Like it'd be so fun to do that.
And like if you were to spec in like dueling, you'd automatically get like the not fencer's finesse, but like the blade training. Like you'd automatically get like the
Steb would be proud.
Steb would be proud. But yeah, you get like the reduced duration on all your sword skills, like just by speccing into dueling, like, and not having to take a trait for that, or like, and every other weapon too, like speccing into, you know, illusions and making what's the word, scepter, you know, reduced cooldown and stuff like that. It would just be because like everyone wants that. Like it's just kind of like,
yeah,
by speccing into that tree, you should automatically be getting that stuff. I don't know. That'd be a cool idea for build diversity, I think.
Yeah, I think they're also getting way too ahead of themselves too. Because although I really like the concept of Mirage, even though it definitely needs work, but they definitely need to show as much care towards the old weapons as much as the new ones. Because there are so many things that could be utilized but are not. And obviously, I'm not talking about all classes. I only know mesmer specifically for the most part. But like just in terms of like offhand sword, pistol, and focus, there needs to be something more to compete with shield.
I want to say that the changes to focus, like the immob that you throw when you put down Warden now, that's actually a pretty nice change. I actually like that a lot.
Yeah.
But it's either what you just said, or they have to tone down shield, and they like weapons like offhand sword. Like come on, like we gotta,
yeah,
and like pistol, like those things need something.
Like they just recently made it to where the swordsman spawns on your target, so it doesn't take a fucking walk in the park every time you spawn it. But there still needs to be something on sword, maybe like a leap ability, or have like a leap ability that you can spec into in dueling, like just apply it to fencer's finesse. Like if you spec into fencer's finesse, you're like, say for your swordsman, like you spawn your swordsman on your target, and then you could just swap swap places with your swordsman or whatever, or something like that. Just give it some type of portability. Or like say with fencer's finesse, you would have like a leap ability that knocks down in an area of an effect or something like that. Just sword definitely needs some love. Like that stupid fucking block in the days, it's not even you can't even put offhand sword and shield in the same sentence without laughing, because shield is just so fucking good. Like you can't even compare the two. So something definitely needs to happen in terms of bringing the other weapons up to snuff.
Yeah, and I think the thing where we suggested that all the weapons should be available, but all of them should be like the ones that are for elite specialization should be toned down until you spec into their lines, which returns them to like their normal their normal way. or like shield, you know, being able to block twice or whatever.
Right. Also, in terms of the old abilities, like, do you think, and this I guess also applies with the utilities as well. Do you think that like say for example speccing in a Chronomancer, do you feel that speccing in a Chronomancer to get wells is worth it or justified, or do you think you should have access to all abilities despite what tree you spec into, or is there some type of line in the sand of gaining a utility traits and elites based off of what tree you're in?
That's
like,
actually a tough question.
With wells and deception skills.
Like, for mesmer only. I don't know about other classes, but mesmer only.
Like, I honestly don't see a problem with me speccing into Mirage and picking up a well skill.
Yeah,
I mean what damage would it do?
You'd probably just take well heal.
How would
it's so good?
It is good, but like, how would that hurt anything? Is what I'm asking. Because like, say for example, if like what we were talking about earlier with Mirage, and to give it a Shadow Step ability, you could theoretically just put that into the tree as well. But I guess that would be way too specific for a heal ability. Like, that would probably just need to be baseline. Yeah. But that being said, though, Mirage would still the Mirage heal, False Oasis, it would still be worth speccing into if you specced into Mirage, right? Because of our previous idea of taking off the cooldown whenever you use Mirage Cloak or the mirrors, that would be worth it, right? So like,
yeah, I think so.
So say for, I guess that would be the same thing with All's Well That Ends Well and the well abilities, right? Because you wouldn't be getting alacrity from it at all. So I don't know. I honestly think that the only reason, like, basically you pick whatever you want and then you spec into, you know, 3 subtrees to complement your build. It shouldn't be the other way around. You shouldn't be forced to go into a tree to get said thing, right? I think there should be complete freedom on everything, every utility and elite, and you specking into Chronomancer, dueling, illusions, Dom, you know, inspiration, chaos. That should complement your build, not the other way around. I think if they were to just release the floodgates on terms of shit like that, that it would shake up things so much, but for the better.
Yeah, and I'm sure some stuff would, you know, some stuff might be found that are, you know, way too synergetic and are way too good, but then it just tone it down from there. I think it's just kind of like, I think Revenant, for example, like if you were trying to make a spec, like, let's say, like, okay, Ventari Rev, like, you really want shield and you really want the Herald heal or the Herald stance, but you don't really give a shit about the trait line. Like, maybe you do, but I'm saying, like, that makes it so that you have less wiggle room in terms of like what you want to do in terms of diversity, which kind of sucks. That'd be really cool if you could just take everything without having to spec into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be fair just because of the fact that it would be, you know, that like say with, you know, just wells or whatever, you can synergize with it so well with alacrity, right? But you have something else in mind, so you're willing to take that sacrifice of alacrity and whatever else you're getting in Chronomancer to synergize with whatever you have going on with the build that you're running. Like, yeah. So I think that would be cool. Also, another thing that kind of irks me quite a bit, has nothing to do with Mirage, is just the fact that we have to run Portal. Always forced to run Portal in SPVP. Like, give us like, the only way that I would be happy would be to like an ability in Mirage or something like that, to where you could actually choose a 4th utility as an elite.
Oh my god.
So you would be able to, you'd be able to give up, you wouldn't be able to spec into an elite, but you'd be able to choose a 4th utility.
I guess that's not, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I feel like the mesmer elites in general are all like strong elites, but without split, the elites become like a little bit less powerful.
Right.
Like running MOA is like, I don't know if people would run MOA with the current Mirage spec. I feel like John is too important, especially if you're not taking inspiration. You need that extra Condy cleanse in order to like exist. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I think that would actually be kind of a good theme for like the next specialization. Like that would be something you could do. Like you know how with Chrono it's you gain access to Continuum Split, Mirage you gain access to Mirage Cloak, and then the next one you would gain access to a 4th utility. Like that would be the baseline thing. But it would still be cool if they were to somehow incorporate it into like another ability.
Are you saying the 4th utility would replace your elite? That's
yes.
What you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be a good price to pay to pick all utility tree or all utility skills and no elite.
Like regardless, it would be cool for like just.
It'd be cool, but for build diversity.
Yeah.
Like if you had something in mind that an elite wouldn't really fit, so you would just pick something else instead of that. Alright, so now we're going to talk about fucking useless traits. Alright.
Oh, thank God.
Imagine Burden. Like.
Delete it. Literally, like, erase it. Erase it. Literally, it's the worst skill I've ever. How could that be a Grandmaster? How does that even exist?
All right.
How do you compete with the other two?
All right, we can't be all pessimists here. So what would you change it to?
Man, that's a good question.
We need We don't need complainers. We need solutions.
I know. Yeah.
I'm just fucking with you, but yeah. I mean, let's see. Whenever you use Spartial Surge, you gain Might. Other Greatsword shells can recharge. It could be
recharge is okay. The recharge is like okay, well, like whatever.
What about changing it to where all your greatsword skills inflict 2 might, and then every single one of your greatsword skills inflicted cripple.
Or even like cripple. I don't know, cripple or like vuln or something that makes you do more damage, like. So that like the longer you were in Greatsword, you were just powering up or something like a.
Well, technically, you already have a lot of Vuln in the Dom tree. You have Illusion of Vuln when you interrupt. You have 5-stack of Vuln when you daze.
True, but mostly not from range. Like this one is like, let me think.
So you could just replace. I don't know. I mean, I think Cripple's kind of good with like if you did it with every single greatsword ability, like that would be decent. Like 3/4 second cripple in every single one of your greatsword abilities.
It wouldn't be bad. I mean, it'd be okay, but like when you think about the rest of the traits,
just ankle bite the shit out of them, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. like when you compare this to Power Block, like I would never in my life take this trait ever.
Power Block.
No, I mean Imagine Burden.
Oh yeah.
It's just Power Block, especially with
Mirage.
It's
too good. Does good damage
really
too.
Synergetic. Yeah. Man, I don't have a potential change for this one yet. I just feel like it's just very underwhelming. There's no reason to ever take this trait ever. Literally, I'd rather take no trait than this.
Yeah. I think just giving might to most of your greatsword abilities, and you could just do 1 stack of Vuln as well. So every single one of your greatsword abilities.
That wouldn't be bad, I guess. That'd be like pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe like increasing the might duration by like a little bit.
Or here's something I just came off the top of my head. Sword 3 teleports you.
Oh, Greatsword 3?
Yeah, Greatsword 3.
Oh, that'd be strong.
Wouldn't that be?
Or make it so that like Greatsword 3 removes boons or removes condis in the people that are in there, so you can use it on yourself or something. Or
that's really cool. I like that. Yeah. I remember now. Yeah, we actually
your greatsword skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we talked about the Condi clear. That's actually pretty dope.
Yeah, like okay, so back when we were talking, like if you take this trait, it empowers your greatsword skills to become more powerful. So your your Zerker would hit like 6 times instead of 4. Your Greatsword 5 would, I don't know, knock back further or put some kind of condi on them or give some kind of boon or something. I don't remember exactly what that was. Greatsword 3 would remove a condi off everyone in the circle when you use it. So you can use it for like a utility. Greatsword 2 would give you, I don't know, 1 extra stack of might per bounce. The Greatsword
yeah. Dude, I'm actually looking on my computer right now. I think I have the document from like way back when. That
yeah.
Hold on, dude. Fucking blast from the past here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here I have the changes for shield, offhand focus, dom. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Wow, holy fuck! I can't believe I kept this. Yeah, domination. Imagine burden. Your greatsword skills are now improved. Spatial surge. Number of targets increased from 3 to 4. Mirror blade gives 4 stacks of might instead of 3. Mind Stab removes 2 boons from foes, removes 1 condition if you are inside the skill's AoE radius. Phantasmal Berserker, number of impacts increased from 4 to 5. Illusionary Wave, knockback increased from 600 up from 450.
Right.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this. That's where, we brainstormed about this like a long fucking time ago.
Yeah, I was thinking about it and I was like, why do I feel like we've talked about this before?
Yeah.
Great.
Let's see, what else?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like, that would at least make it a contender for other traits. Like, maybe even still, I'd still take Power Block, but that, like, would be cool. I don't know. And, like, the recharge would still be there and everything. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And then, here's another one. Offhand focus, Phantasmal Warden. This phantasm now chases its target until destroyed or shattered. There is no stop and go animation between attacks.
Yeah.
I think that would be
that'd be pretty strong, especially since they already added like the immob to it.
Yeah.
So like even if they broke the immob, it's just keep chasing them. That'd be pretty cool.
And then one change for offhand sword would be illusionary riposte. Block incoming attacks for a short duration and create an illusion when attacked. Damage 36. Block duration 1.5 seconds. And then a secondary effect, counterblade. Swap places with the illusion when created by illusionary riposte and release the energy of your stored blade by your blocked attack and area effect by stabbing your sword in the ground, knocking enemies down within the radius. The animation will be similar to Greatsword 3, except with an offhand sword instead of the illusionary blade animation afterwards. Damage 710, radius 240, max targets knockdown 3, knockdown time 1 second, range 600, cast time 3/4 a second. You can cast this while moving.
Yeah, see, that'd be dope. And I wouldn't even say that like, it sounds kind of ridiculous, like really strong, but it really isn't that strong when you think about.
Because the cool thing about that is, basically, you block for 1.5 seconds, right? So if you actually block an attack, an illusion spawns on the target, in which you can swap places from and do the knockdown, which I think is really fucking cool. So you have to actually block an attack in order to get the swap from your offhand sword. That would be ultra dope.
Random, because you can control when you want to pour it in.
Right.
And it would just be like.
Yeah, and in there as well it says you will have a 5-second window to swap after a successful block, same amount of time as main hand sword 3. So.
And like, I think another important thing is the change to the sword actually blocking.
Yeah, blocking instead of one attack.
Yeah,
I mean, a 1.5 block I think would be worth it.
Yeah.
And it's different than shield too. Like, you're actually just gaining a portability that does decent damage, but you have to have a requirement met first. Like if you block and the enemy's smart, he won't attack you and you won't get the leap ability that does damage and knockdown and all that good shit. So the funny thing is in my notes it says Phantasmal Swordsman, this ability is now summoned on the target. LOL! Because it now does that. Fuck me, that's hilarious. Let's see. What else did I... Now I'm kind of curious of what I put in here. Let's see. Inspiration, Warden's feedback is now in place of Temporal Enchanter. Let's see. Warden's feedback, your focus skills have been improved. Focus recharge reduced by 20%. Temporal Curtain now grants super speed to yourself and allies for 3 seconds upon first entering. Reflects projectiles. That would be
I remember how to talk about this. Yeah.
That would be a nice buff to focus.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, I remember this. Into the Void now cripples foes upon activation. Damage all foes based off of how many enemies are pulled. Max number of foes crippled 5. Cripple duration 3 seconds. And then it's just Void damage 1 enemy, 210. Void damage 2 enemies, 231, 252, 273, and 294. I mean, obviously the numbers can change, but that would be so fucking sick for... and that would actually be for Temporal Curtain too, so you'd have to spec into that. Which goes great too, because it essentially, if you want your Warden's feedback to be absolutely fucking legit, then you would have to spec, and that's essentially like what we're talking about, or what's on this fucking list, would be put into Warden's feedback. So in order to get the damage from Into the Void and the super speed, you'd actually have to spec into Inspiration to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be
I just thought of something super cool for Into the Void.
dope.
If
What's
it
that?
like spawns like a little like a void rip, like as soon as you pull, and then they have like a second to maybe stun break and get out of it. But if they don't stun break, then it'll be like a little void that like explodes or something like that, like, and just does like AoE damage.
Fucking eye candy.
Yeah, and the more targets you pull, just the more, like, the bigger the explosion would be, or whatever, the more damage it would do.
Yeah.
But you still had some counterplay in the sense that you could just, stun break out of it or whatever if you had one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting to say the least. Let's see, what else is there to cover? I think we fucking just gutted everything. We talked about Axe, we talked about the Mirage, we talked about... Well, actually, we didn't talk about Spear, because no one gives a fuck about Spear.
No one gives a fuck about Spear.
Yeah! What is it, anyways? I never even read it.
I don't
Blink
even
to your
know.
target and unleash a series of low-damage strikes that rapidly sack vulnerability. That's one thing I wish was a lot better with Guild Wars 2 was the underwater combat. I actually thought it was a great idea, and the Raid in the Capricorn was really, really fun. If it was balanced, I would say that would be the one thing that was completely different from every other MMO, would be the underwater combat with Guild Wars 2. Like, they had a great thing going, and then they just decided from like month 3 to not give a flying fuck about it and just ignore it completely. Like, it's pretty much unanimous on the community that they just straight up don't care about underwater combat. Like, that's the reason why they changed Temple of the Silent Storm. Is that what's it called? Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Temple.
there was too many skills.
And they they took away the water and all this shit. Because before, remember when you jumped in that hole, it was just, you would just jump straight in the water. There was no bridge. It was just water. Yeah.
I feel like too many classes had too many stupid skills underwater. Like Thief had like this infinite evade, and it was just
Really?
It was just like, it was more that the underwater skills were just so weird and dumb, and they were more like PvE skills that I guess they were just like, fuck this, and decided to get rid of it because they didn't want to, change PvE skills. Which later they started splitting, but I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish the underwater would have been better. But yeah, holy shit, we've been going for like an hour. I'll probably cut it off there. But thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down below. Thank you, Mr. Zeromi Pepperoni, for taking the time to nerd it up with me in terms of the Mirage abilities and all this shit. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Give Zero some love, and we'll check you guys later.
Free Zeromis.
Free Zeromi Pepperoni.